All right, you two. We ready?
All right, it's 6:30. I hereby call this meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Announcements, awards, special recognition. We have none at this time. Public comment.
Madam Mayor, we have 3 public comments. The first one is Mr. Keith Larson.
Stacy, I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Maybe
can't
next
hear
time. Thank you.
The first one to speak is Mr. Keith Larson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, City Council, and city residents. My name's Keith Larson. I'm a resident of Peachtree City in Sandown Creek. I'm also a bike walk community advocate. May is National Bike Month, an opportunity to encourage safe use of bicycles in our city. May has been declared National Bike Month for each of the last 68 years to advocate safety and awareness for bicyclists, promote bike commuting, and bike riding as a means of maintaining physical fitness. There are many special bicycle events scheduled in May for Peachtree City, to include this Saturday, May 4th, the Peachtree City International and Super Sprint Triathlons and Aqua Bike Race. May 8th, Walk, Bike, and Roll to School Day. May 10th, the Peachtree City Cub Scout Bike Rodeo. May 13th to the 17th, Bike to Work Week. May 15th, the Ride of Silence. May 18th, the Brooks Century Ride will traverse Peachtree City. May 11th and 18th, our BMX track will host their usual race series. The Southside Cycling Club, Ladies on Spokes, Peachtree City BMX Parents Association, Peachtree City Tri Club, the Southwest Atlanta Youth Mountain Bike Club, and Bike Walk Fayette encourage and engage participants in the sports of any type of bicycling in our city. At a recent city council meeting during discussions, a question was posed. What did the Path Safety Group accomplish? Well, tonight I want to share what they did. None of the city council members were present when the multi-use Path Safety Advisory Group was in session for only 3 months during 2021, and when the group made our presentation of recommendations at the December 2nd, 2021 council meeting. I have provided in the past each one of the council members and the mayor a copy of that presentation and the meeting notes. I shared with you today by email my look back at the city accomplishments to date in adopting the group's recommendations and measures for the city action to improve public safety on the PATH system. The categories included PATH safety management, engineering, encouragement, education, evaluation and planning, and registration. 19 of the 39 measures, or 48% of those recommended by the group, have been adopted and implemented in some manner by the city staff and departments. Measures with immediate impacts included limited number of speed humps with ADA access, path crossing signs, path markings, and vegetation maintenance. The resumption of path wayfinding markings and the new GPS app, Navigate Peachtree City, are a significant boost to residents and visitors alike. 2 proposals, tunnel replacement and transition ramps, became significant funded projects in the 2023 SPLOST. Other measures included improvements for alternate mode parking, additional youth cart driver training sessions, updated city provided information, public service announcements, and increased active presence on the path by police patrolling and code enforcement. This really is an amazing accomplishment of the city to adopt and implement these measures considering the short duration of the group. There remains today a number of measures that could be still adopted in the future. The most important is the city creating a standing advisor group to monitor all transportation issues as part of an overall traffic safety management program. This should include consideration of disabled accommodations and accessibility to public facilities by the pass system and sidewalks. I'd like to say we can always do better, and I'm confident that the city will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next person
Your time
assigned
has
up is
expired.
Ms. Sue Reed.
Thank you for your.
Good evening. My name is Sue Reed, and I am from the PTC Fayette Pickleball Club. I come before you tonight to share some what we consider exciting news. In the last 2 months alone, our members have attended tournaments throughout the states of Georgia, Florida, and Alabama. I am proud to say that they have represented the PTC Fayette Pickleball Club and the city of Peachtree City very well by winning 24 medals at these tournaments, and this is only 2 months. I am also proud to say that at looking at this list, 95% of these winners were taught the game of pickleball by our coaches in our beginners clinic. This brings me to the second part of my being here. 2 weeks ago, I requested 2 hours of dedicated court time at Kedron Fieldhouse for our training of beginner pickleballers. I want you to know that we are still waiting for what we hope will be a positive response. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last person to sign up to speak is Ms. Taylor Pesson.
Good evening, I'm Taylor Pesson and I live in the Glenlock area. This council meeting has been on my schedule since late December. I've spent the last 16 Thursday evenings in a housing policy class where I have focused on housing policy in Peachtree City. And I graduated today, so no more classes. But I was originally going to come to address, the findings of my study and formally request an opportunity to present it to the city. However, there was some racist rhetoric that came out of City Council last week, and I can't comment directly on that rhetoric. However, I would like to point out that that is pretty damaging to our community in multiple ways. So because I can't comment too much on it, I do want to discuss exclusionary zoning in this city and how that has perpetuated our problems of racial residential segregation and socioeconomic segregation. So what I'd really like to get to is that we hear a lot of excuses for not rezoning to allow for more housing types in the form of it wasn't part of the plan. We need to stick to the plan. We need to stick to the plan. But if you read the 1972 master plan, it is dripping with language around inclusion, equity, diversity, bringing those values as founding principles to our city. On June 1st, 2023, Councilmember Brown said, and I quote, "Diversity, equity, inclusion are not a place in legitimate municipal language." And I just want to, point out the fact that in 1972, they were. So again, I do want to request an opportunity to present my analysis where I can discuss further how this city is racially, residentially segregated. I think if you take a look around the room, it's pretty clear. But anyway, that was all I had to say, and I appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you. Agenda changes, council? No. Minutes, April 18th, 2024 regular meeting minutes, April 18th, 2024 executive session minutes. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we accept the April 18th, 2024 regular minutes and executive session minutes.
Clint, could you change that accept to approve?
Yes, I can. Madam Mayor, can I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 18th, 2024 for both the regular meeting minutes and for the executive session minutes?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Quarterly
Thank you, Ted.
reports. January 2024 through March 2024. Council, questions, comments, concerns about these wonderful quarterly reports?
No.
Anybody?
I'll make a comment that I love them because they really give you both the information you need, but also gives you a nice visual so you can actually start to see the graphs and pie charts and other things that you put in there. I just would want to recommend that they just keep doing this, Madam Mayor. It looks good.
Yeah, it's very helpful. One thing I'll point out is under our communications umbrella, we have now reached the milestone of 27,600 Instagram followers on Peachtree City. That is unbelievable, in a population city of 38,000. Under our police department, we see golf cart citations are up 13% first quarter of this year compared to first quarter last year. And maybe with it, golf cart collisions are down 38%. Directly correlated? I have no idea. I would think so. And finally, DUI arrests are up 30% first quarter 2024 compared to first quarter 2023. I find that to be absolutely amazing.
And
again, thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just add for everyone, these reports are available on our website.
Beautiful. Consent agenda items, and yes, I need to read these into the record. A, fiscal year 2024 budget amendment, BSA software cloud conversion agreement. B, fiscal year 2024 budget amendment, engineering services. C, fiscal year 2024 budget amendment, 2024 Walmart local community grant. D, fiscal year 2024 budget amendment, TJX law enforcement grant. E, fiscal year 2024 budget amendment, Sunset Sounds sponsorships. F, fiscal year 2024 budget amendment, CVB incentive fund. And finally, G, approve the annual renewal contract of a budgeted maintenance agreement for medical equipment. Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items A through G.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And with that, we just accepted a Walmart grant in the amount of $5,000, a TJ Maxx law enforcement grant in the amount of $7,000, $2,500 from Floor and Decor to sponsor our Sunset Sounds, and $5,000 from Cooper Lighting to be the presenting sponsor at Sunset Sounds, which I think now, thanks to our community partners, is breaking even. General discussion. A, administrative variance ordinances, Mr. Holland.
Can I get the presentation up? Okay, last July of 2023, I started to work on these ordinances for administrative variance. It's taken me, almost 10 months to get it back on the agenda so that we can actually discuss it a little bit more than my presentation back in July. So tonight, I'm going to give you a little refresher of what this was. And would you do the forwarding for me? I'll give you a little refresher for what it is, and then we'll decide, we'll put it out for the council to decide what the next steps would be. Go ahead. Basically, the ordinances are 1203 and 1204. By the way, if I put anybody to sleep, we'll poke you so you wake up, because this is just all very dry stuff on the variances we have. A 1203 is the discussion of what types of variances we have. So it's nothing more than we have a regular variance and an administrative variance. Now, when you get into 1204, it starts to talk about that. That particular ordinance had been around, 1204, since 1992. It's been redone a few times along the way, and I'm looking at trying to put it again, another change to this particular ordinance. But you can see by the ordinance that we have right now, which was enacted in December 16th, 2021, that we can go in the rear setbacks, and we can take 50% of that and have it done administratively instead of bringing it before the council. Secondly, we can decrease the building setbacks by 25%. We can also decrease the parking spaces on a commercial land by up to 25%. And we can increase the height of the fence or the wall height by up to 25%. And it requires the approval of 3 members of a committee: the zoning administrator, the city manager, and 1 council member. Next slide. And this is just a review of what I put up before. It's only just a few years, and I'll show you a little bit more in a moment on this presentation. But basically, it shows that we're basically flat when it comes to variances that come before the council over the last 4 years. And then we see what happened to the administrative variances. We had started to get a spike, and we're already starting now in 2024. It will be certainly more than that right now. And you can see the total number of variances of only 77 variances over almost a 4.5-year period. Next slide. Okay, for the geeks in the crowd, what we're showing here is the number of variances by standard variance, which is the red line, and the blue line is administrative variances. Take a look at the red line, and you'll see that it does bounce all over the place from 1992 to 2023. And you can see that, in essence, if you drew what I would call root mean square in there, you're about 10 variances per year. You can see a line going through with the above and below. If you look at the administrative variances, it varies between 0 and 5 typically. But if you look to the right side of that, you're going to see the administrative variances are starting to go exponential. They're going up pretty fast. And that's what alerted me that I think we need to relook at the administrative variance one more time. Next slide. Now, there's some problems with the ordinances. Basically, we have a land plan here, and we do have variances that are available, but it's been decades that we've used this land plan, and it's served us quite well over the years. But since the passage of the 1204, specifically about administrative variances, there's been a large increase of administrative variances. If you look at the pre-years of the 1204, it was only 3 on average. And now we're seeing 21 in the years after. And the way I look at it, and I'm not sure what my fellow council members will look at this, but I find it to be the administrative variance can be considered a shortcut to get the variance approved instead of going through the entire city council for approval. Next slide. And now, basically we can do 2 things here. And I'm not saying we're going to go with option A or option B, but you'll see that in just a moment. But what I'm saying is that we can totally rescind that ordinance. But I think there's a reason for having an administrative variance, and I've kind of backed off a bit on completely rescinding it, although that is a possibility that this council may take up. So I want to at least put it up there. Whereas option B is in tonight's handout that everyone has on the council here, is basically text amendments. Text amendments. The text amendments are in the handout that I've given out to the council members here, and they're small. Most of them are changing some of the numbers, changing 50% down to another number, and changing 25% down to another number, and changing the fence height a little bit. It's also changing the who is in the committee of 3 people. Instead of having the zoning administrator, the city manager, and 1 council member, I'm asking that we have 2 council members and the city manager to make the decision on administrative variances. So what I've done is given each of the council members a line, what we call a red line, where we go in and make changes, but you can see where the changes are all made. And with that, I would like to go to the next slide. And I'd like to make a motion that we initiate the process of a text amendment to section 1204 of the zoning ordinance based upon the changes in this council packet. And that's what I've put up there as my motion.
I second the motion.
Now, we have a motion and a second. Now we'll have discussion. Can you direct us to what page number in the packet you've got for those red lines?
They were did you send them out when I sent them to you?
There's not one in my packet.
Did they not get out?
No, sir, the only request is to have them ready for the presentation. I didn't realize you wanted them printed
Yeah,
on the dais.
I read, and
apologize.
my email said, have them ready for the council members. Okay, well, it looks like that got missed. I sent them out well in advance.
We had them in email
You
earlier.
have them in emails? Okay, so we have them in emails.
We had them.
So,
I apologize, I thought they were gonna be in the packets, and they're not.
I
You printed them out yourself?
well,
Okay.
I don't have the
So you
email.
want to change your
as well.
motion as opposed to the council packet based upon the changes distributed to council?
Via
Okay.
email.
I make a motion that we initiate the process
Well,
of,
why don't you undo your second and then undo your?
You want to rescind
Okay, I
it?
rescind my second.
Thank you.
and I rescind my motion, and I
Thank you.
make a motion that we initiate the process of a text amendment to section 1204 of the zoning ordinance based upon the
You may not be able to read it.
email,
The changes were in the email that was sent.
the
to
changes in the email that was sent to the council.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Now we can discuss. And
Right.
can you please enumerate for me what those changes are?
I don't even bring a copy myself, Mayor. I apologize. Who's got a copy?
Madam Mayor, Frank has my copy right here.
Okay.
So I don't think we're prepared to vote on this tonight, Mr. Holland. If we don't have this in front of us, we have city manager and 2 members of council as a change. We have rear setback encroachment changes from 50%, not to exceed 50%, to not to exceed 2 feet. We have, you want to eliminate all property owners adjacent to the requested property being a condition
Correct? Condition of what?
of approval for
That's
administrative.
part of the
warrant.
administrative variance procedure, is to have all your neighbors sign off on it.
And you want to eliminate
I
that.
want to eliminate that, Are they gonna be because we notified? had a case last year which I didn't particularly like, where we had 5 out of the 6 neighbors sign off and 1 didn't. And I thought that was
Let me get through this.
wrong.
The list of changes, that's 3 so far. The other one you're requesting is, instead of not more than 25% of the building setback next to city property, that's 2, changes to 2 feet.
Yep.
And then, again, a repeat of the, all property owners adjacent to the requested property
Right.
for 25%, or which would be 2 feet adjacent to city property. You're saying that no homeowners or HOAs need to be involved in
No, I
approving.
think I
HOAs.
left the homeowners in.
No, it's, this-
Homeowner
somebody crossed it out.
Association.
That's
oh, okay,
not-
homeowners association
Is
is
in,
included.
yes.
Any others, Mr. Holland?
Can we make a comment yet?
Please, by all means, Mr. DeStadio.
In the past, whenever we had a text amendment to an ordinance, they were passed out to us, and we were able to look at them and maybe making our own comments to those text amendments. So I would like to get a copy so I can make them necessarily changes that I'd like to see.
Well, keep in mind, tonight is just to initiate that process. It's not to approve
Correct.
what the changes are.
Well, that's
This then-
fine.
Yeah, this then,
That's
if it's
how we
approved
get.
tonight, it goes to the planning commission for a public hearing, staff review as well, and then it comes back to council for a public hearing for final consideration. So
I understand.
tonight-
True, thank you, but I think Mr. DeStadio's point is, what goes to the planning commission, and what would come back then? What would go to the planning commission, these as written, or something that maybe he had an opportunity to put input into?
Based on the motion that's been made, what you're holding in your hand is what would be the starting point for the discussion.
And it would be a starting point, and as you know, the planning commission can make all types of changes before they come back with a recommendation. They could completely eliminate what I put out there and come up with some other things that other people would have on the planning commission,
I'm well aware of what they can do,
okay?
but just like we had one with the police department 6 months ago, we all made comments we wanted to see on the one for the police, and then we sat down many times, but 2 or 3 times, until the final one was done, and then we sent that forward. All I'm asking for is an opportunity to see what we have, make my comments on that and send it forward to whoever you want to send it to. Obviously, it's got to go to the planning commission, but Mr. Holland may want to see my comments. Suzanne may want to see my comments.
And I will say, Councilman Holland did email this out to all of you a few days ago, so you did get a digital copy of it, and if you want the option tonight, you could move this to the end of the agenda. We could make copies and you could have further discussion tonight, or, you know, it's up to you.
Well, I'm
Thank you.
sorry, I didn't see it.
Okay, I'll go first, which isn't the norm, but I believe that our administrative variance process was created for a reason, to serve our citizens, those who have a small encroachment into a newly discovered setback, usually in a property that the original owner is not in that property. It serves our citizens who have what you might call a no-brainer, but a minimal encroachment into rear or side setbacks. It serves our citizens by not making them go through a 45-day process and a $300 advertising fee. I know there was a location in Glenlock the property owner discovered a couple months ago when I did an administrative variance committee ruling. There was a property owner in Glenlock, house built in the 70s, when these setbacks didn't exist, who wanted to make a screen porch on one end of his house and discovered when he did his survey that the other end of his house, master bedroom, goes over the side the side setback by 3 feet 2 inches. Don't quote me on that. I think it was 3 feet 2 inches. If we didn't have a reasonable administrative variance process, that person would have to advertise, wait 45 days, and go through a lot just to be able to build a screen porch on the other end of the house as originally intended. I believe that our process is reasonable. We have a document, a wonderful comparison put together by our planning department, thank you so much, of administrative variance processes in Fairburn, Fayetteville, Noonan, Sonoy, Tyrone, and Peachtree City. We're not out of line in anything that we do, and as a matter of fact, in all of those cities, given that there is a set criteria, there's actually no decision to be made other than does it meet this criteria, which is why in all of those cities, the planning director and only the planning director is able to make that ruling. So I have not heard of a single problem or concern or regret of anybody coming back and saying that was a terrible decision or how could you or how dare you. I just don't know of any problems with our administrative variance. So I'm not prepared to move this forward.
Can I make a comment?
Of course.
I think what Clint's done is a good thing. I think making changes to any old variance is always take a second look at it. So I welcome the recommendations you've made. I'd like to make sure that I agree with them. Anybody else can decide what they want to do, but I think making a revision to an old ordinance is perfectly acceptable to me. But going through the process of having everybody have a chance to look at it, and if I missed it, I apologize, but we ought to have a chance to look at it, make our comments about it. For example, I don't think we ought to have 50% of the side setback or the rear setback, but whatever, we ought to take a look at it and everybody ought to have a chance to make their comments. So I agree that we can go forward if the mayor wants to, or at least.
I do not.
Okay. I would say we could go forward if we all had an opportunity to review it and make our comments.
Councilmember Johnson?
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I would agree with a lot of what the mayor says. I think having administrative variances is a good process. I feel like it serves our citizens. We have a lot of older homes in our city, and a lot of the ordinances that we have came after these homes were built. And so whenever these older homes are updated, these homeowners are having to do work, and when they do, they have to come into compliance with our ordinances. So I think that our community is served well by these administrative variances. I think the fact that we are having more of them was the intent of having an administrative variance. That process is so that we can make it easier. So the fact that we have more of them, I feel like that makes sense. I don't see where we do have neighbors complaining. The fact that neighbors write and can support and they have to have that, and if they don't, then they do come before us, you know, and we hear those out. But I will say, I support this in the fact that I do think that 50% into a rear setback is excessive. I would send this forward to the Planning Commission. For me, the only revision that I see that's needed is possibly bringing that to 25%. I also would like to echo Mayor Leonard's sentiments in the fact that this information that we have before us from all of the other jurisdictions is very helpful. We have in every other city as a planning director. Here we go above and beyond. We have our planning director, someone from our city manager, and someone represented from council, which I think is above and beyond what other cities do. I feel like that has served us well. I don't necessarily see a change there. My biggest thing would be the rear setback, and that would be the only thing that if it's going forward, that would be my recommendation to the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Can I make a comment first? I just want to make sure that everyone understands, I'm not canceling this, I just made changes in the amount, which means that I am still for administrative variances. So the comments being made about, about getting rid of this is absolutely wrong. I'm just making changes so it's a little tighter than what it was previously.
And eliminating the necessity for adjacent property owners to have
We
notification
experienced
or a
that
say.
last year, where one did not come forward.
In which case, what happened at that time, then it came to city council.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's correct.
Ms. Brown?
I believe the administrative variance sections 1203 and 1204 need to be looked at, revised. My initial reaction was that we should rescind 1204, but I'm more than willing to leave it in place with changes. Excuse me. I agree that at this point we should send the issue to the Planning Commission. I have several issues with the current ordinance as it is written. And just to clarify, the current changes that Councilman Holland is recommending does not change the portion of it which would grandfather in something that was done by a prior owner. So that's still in what changes he recommended. So just so everybody knows that. So if you buy a house and find out that something was done by a prior owner, you would still be able to find recourse through the administrative variance remedy process. My biggest objection is the reduction of the rear setback by 50%. And what I've looked at is the historic records that in 1992, when this was put in place, the only thing, it's created the administrative variance. The existing setback violation was not created by the current property owner, was allowed to be in with a maximum of 25% on a setback violation. And it reviewed by administrative variance committee that consisted of one council member, one planning commissioner, and the planning director. In 2008, when the changes were made, the city council created a special exception variance. They kept the administrative variance from 1992 ordinance. They changed the committee to one council member, the city manager, and the planning director. And they created a special exception variance that would include decreasing any setback next to city-owned greenbelt a maximum of 25%, decrease parking maximum of 25%, and increase fence height for safety or privacy with no maximum. That was a little strange. They reviewed by the city council in a public hearing. So in December of 2021, the changes that were made put forward the current changes, which I have them here on this paper. It combined administrative variances and special exception variances into one, titled the administrative variance. It kept all existing requirements from 1992 and 2008. It added rear setback encroachment with a maximum of 50% with letters of support from all surrounding property owners and the HOA, and it added a maximum height increase to a fence of 25%, and that it would be reviewed by the Administrative Variance Committee, the same committee structure as the 2008 ordinance. So, I don't like the other reductions in the variance, or excuse me, the setbacks, but the rear one is the most objectionable to me, and it appears the original version in 1992 allowed a homeowner to get approval for something built by a prior owner, or that was built prior to a building code for that item, which is kind of important to note, because a lot of our houses here in town were built before there was any kind of an ordinance or a building code that addressed something. I also object to any requirement that an applicant must obtain letters of approval from their neighbors. I see a ton of pluses and minuses with all of this. I think it makes it really hard to burden a homeowner to go and beg their neighbors for permission, and it gives the neighbor permission to say yes or no over what that person is trying to do, and I think that that's not a fair amount of, power or pressure to put on either one of those people. So I don't think that that should be left in. I'm glad that Councilman Holland was taking that step to try to say, let's remove that. If the ordinance is modified, I hope that they will recommend that the Administrative Variance Committee consists of one member of the Planning Commission, one member of City Council, and the City Manager. And that takes the Planning Director out of the mix on having the actual hearing, because the Planning Director is too involved in the application process and the preparation of the packet. I think that it should be 3 people who have not been involved prior to the actual hearing occurring. The prediction that the last ordinance change would save time, I think, was wrong. We've seen the numbers spike. The last changes to this ordinance in December 2021 were a vast overreach that is far too liberal in granting latitude away from the compliance with our zoning setbacks, fence height, and parking space requirements. I mean, going from having like a 2-foot infringement, which was the original intent, to 50% of a setback. If you've got a 30 or 40-foot setback on the rear, that's a 20-foot infringement. I think that that's excessive. So, now, may not be excessive if you take it through the regular variance process, but it's excessive for administrative variance procedures. So for all the reasons I stated, I think the ordinance does need to be revised or rescinded. I mean, I could easily write up a summary of what I'd like to see changed and tweaked in this, just like Councilman Holland has his feelings and Councilman DiStadio does too. But I think it needs to be changed. I think what we're hearing is 3 council members think changes need to be made to this. So I think that's
Any other
important.
comments? Any
I
other
have one last comment, Madam Mayor. I just want to make sure everyone knows I'm not against variances. I just want them corrected so they make sense. That's really all I want to say.
I think, thank you, Clint. As long as I've been on the council, there have been changes made to variances. There's a process to make changes to the variances, whether we do it this way or we do it, through a more formal process. So no one's saying you're making changes differently, but I do want to see us follow the process we've done in the past, which is everyone has a chance to edit the changes, the text changes, and give them back to whoever's running the recommended changes, and those are merged together into one agreed upon revision to the text.
So that isn't the motion. The motion that we have on the floor and a second is to take the changes that Council Member Holland provided us and send them on to the Planning Commission.
Yes, I'm against doing that.
Okay. All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of moving this forward to the Planning Commission, say aye.
I have a question to ask the counselor,
This
Madam
is
Mayor.
Sure, Mr.
Question,
Holland.
and the question I have to the counselor is if we take the packet as it is and add in the comments and adjustments that the members of council have just suggested, put them all together, and that becomes the documents that go to the Planning Commission. Is that an acceptable way of doing that administratively?
I think the council's gonna be making comments about this as it evolves, whether you do it before you send it or when it comes back to council. I think that's up to council to decide how they wanna do it.
Okay, so if it goes as it is now then, people can still opine to the Planning Commission with their changes, regardless of whether or not this packet goes or some other packet goes. They can still opine on that to the Planning Commission, so the Planning Commission has all of the input from Councilman
member of
Estadio,
council.
et cetera.
Any member of council is free to comment on it throughout the process.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I have a motion and a second.
I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
don't mean to interrupt. Can I also ask another question? So you're saying that if we approve this, it's going forward with just Councilman Holland's suggestions? And then can you clarify for me what we would have to do to communicate our thoughts? Where you're saying we have to,
I would probably send them to Justin, because communications route through the city manager. He will distribute them to Robin, and those comments will be included with the agenda package when it appears before the planning commission. So they would take those into consideration in making whatever recommendation they make as to the changes. Once they make the recommendation, then it comes back before council for another public hearing and formal consideration of the text amendment.
and it would be part of the presentation? Right.
All in favor of moving this forward, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
No. Councilmember Johnson, roll call.
Aye. I'll send in my comments.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Next item of discussion, B, certification of compliance with OCGA 368023. Ms. Brown.
Madam Mayor, before I start, I want to say that I attempted to change this presentation to our next meeting due to the ordinance change. There are serious issues with the ordinance 1218 that have to be worked out because it does not outline a myriad of procedures that need to be followed. So when I asked if I could change this to the next council agenda, I was told that I didn't have the authority to do that because I had put this measure forward and 2 other people had to vote on it to accept it and to put it on the agenda for tonight. But I've asked, as of yesterday, I asked if I could move it and was told no, that it would have to come in front of council, or at least I'll believe it has to be voted on. So I would like to make a motion that this agenda item is moved to new agenda items on the Peachtree City Council meeting scheduled for May 16th at 9:30 a.m. so I can work on it further.
I can second that.
I'd like to know what we're voting on.
She wants to
I know she wants to move the one she has. What does it say?
move.
I'm not prepared to do the full presentation tonight, Frank. Well, I am prepared to do a presentation if you don't let me move it to the next meeting, but I would appreciate if you'd let me move it to the next meeting agenda.
It's on today's agenda as certification of compliance.
The certification of the compliance item?
Yes,
Okay.
she wants to discuss it in a different manner in a future council. I will say that this entire issue has turned out to be redundant. We are not a sanctuary city. It is therefore unnecessary. Governor Kemp and the legislators at the state level have already taken care of this issue as is appropriate at the state level. Nobody I have talked to in Peachtree City has asked for this, not a conversation, not a resolution, not an advancement of the topic whatsoever. I do not support any further conversation on the topic, nor would I support a resolution. I think we've dithered long enough, and I'm embarrassed. Councilmember DeStadio or Johnson, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, so I've had more time to think on this since the meeting where this was presented. It's been very clear from the feedback that I have received overwhelmingly that this is not something that our residents feel like is needed. I agree with the redundancy of this. I sat across a table from our assistant police chief this week who said this could possibly do more damage than good. And we have a world-class police force that just won a major prestigious award. I respect them. We are in compliance, and that was enough for me. I don't support this going forward.
Mr. DeStadio?
Well, I would echo what Laura says about having an outstanding police department, number one, and I have heard the same things about this could do more harm to us than it would give us a benefit. Weren't we supposed to make sure, too, that the certificate of compliance was actually signed?
We do that every year.
We do it.
We
We
are in
don't sign it.
compliance.
We don't sign it, but we fill out reports to the state
All right.
on various different
That's been
things.
done.
And one of the things we do, and we have done since this state law has come into place, is verify that we are not a sanctuary city, and we are not.
And we do that through the certificate of compliance.
We
We're
do
in
it through a
compli-
report with the state, and
That's fine.
we are not I can verify we are not a sanctuary city as registered with the state of Georgia.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be voting no.
With that, I would vote no.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of moving this forward, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no.
No.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, I meant to vote aye. I
I got you.
apologize.
I read you. Thank you.
That was my motion.
That's okay.
Okay, then we have this presentation tonight.
Actually, we have no council consensus to move the issue forward whatsoever.
Actually, it's on the agenda.
on the agenda for
motion was
tonight.
whether to continue it or not, and that was voted down.
Okay.
So
Okay,
Now
take
still-
one and pass it down. Thank you. Okay,
Oh, that's correct.
is the slide going to be presented? Jasmine?
I'm sorry, what?
The slide,
Which one?
the one from Community Affairs, that one?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, we can
okay.
pull that up. We have the website.
Okay. I sent each of you, council members, a copy of House Bill 1105, which is the Georgia Criminal Alien Track and Report Act of 2024, so that you could read it prior to tonight's meeting. Over 10 million illegal immigrants have entered the United States since January of 2021. It threatens the safety and security of every man, woman, and child in the U.S., in Georgia, in Fayette County, and in Peachtree City. We are obligated to protect our citizens. One way is to comply with the laws to maintain our non-sanctuary status and make a clear declaration that we are not a sanctuary city. Jasmine has the slide up there now. Could you move it up a little bit so that everybody could see the bulk of the table? I apologize for the fact that the print is so small. And I would ask, Justin, do you feel comfortable with explaining what is done to come up with these categories?
Sure. So I've done some extensive research on this the past 2 weeks. Every year as a city, we have to do certain things with the state to comply with state regulations and things that the state of Georgia wants to see from its local jurisdictions to be able to qualify for state funding. One of those things is sanctuary city policies, and as I stated with Councilman DeStadio before, this list from the DCA here shows different jurisdictions within Georgia that do not comply with certain things and therefore do not qualify for certain portions of state funding or no state funding at all. You see there are 4 columns there. One is comprehensive planning, which a few years ago, if you remember, we updated our comprehensive plan. That's part of the state of Georgia requires us to do that to receive funding. E-Verify, as a jurisdiction, we have to be in the E-Verify system, and that's for our employees. Employees that we hire are vetted through the E-Verify system, which is the federal system on citizenship. Service delivery strategy, that's where we negotiate with the county and other jurisdictions in Fayette County for how we're going to deliver certain services. You'll see that everybody in the state does that. There's nobody on that list that's non-compliant with that. And then finally on the right side, you see the sanctuary policies state law, which says that any local jurisdiction in Georgia that passes anything to become a sanctuary city is not qualified to receive any state funding whatsoever. We are not on that list. Peachtree City is not on the list. We'll see there are various jurisdictions that are on that list, but we are not on there. Every year we do verify with the state that no sanctuary policy has been passed by Peachtree City, which would have to take an act of council, which has not happened. Other things that we report on, I don't know how deep you want me to go with this, Suzanne.
Just a brief overview of
Okay.
the E-Verify system
Okay.
and what we do.
Yeah, so another part of what we do with the state to verify these things is we verify any public benefits that we give we report any public benefits we do as a service. We actually don't provide any public benefit services to our citizens. That's more of a state thing. It's more of a county thing. You think Department of Health, stuff like that. the only things that we have to report on are our retirement and health benefits as a public service, and that is for our actual employees. It's not for our citizens. Next thing is the sanctuary policy
Justin,
one.
before you go on, I hate to interrupt you.
Yeah.
One other thing the city has to do is provide E-Verify and SAVE affidavits compliance. Oh, you're gonna get that? That's what you were jumping
That's where
at.
I'm going now. All right. Next thing we do is we actually report to the state how many business licenses, occupational tax certificates, or other things that we provide to businesses. We provide, this is just last year, 2,359 occupational tax or business licenses to our businesses in the city. When they come to get those, if they have 10 or more employees, they have to be E-Verified. If they're not E-Verified, they're not getting a business license in the city. One extra thing that we do is also we do the SAVE affidavit, which is the Systematic Alien Verification for Entitlements. And it's a database, it's a federal database that they have to sign this affidavit, and on it they have to say whether they're a citizen, a legal permanent resident, or a qualified alien. It's an affidavit they do. We put it into the database, and we actually, when somebody applies with us, if they check either option 2 or 3, which is the legal permanent resident or the qualified alien, we actually do go in and check that database and see what it says, and we have had no issues whatsoever with it. Like, I've verified with staff, and no one has ever been flagged that has applied with us in that database. So those are things we do with businesses. The next thing we do is contractors we work with. So there's another report we do with the state. We had 545 instances of contractors we work with, which anything greater than $2,500 via contract or purchase order with people we work with directly as a city, we have to report that, and they have to have E-Verify. And beyond the 10, which is the business requirement for private businesses in the city, any contractor we work with that has more than one person, so if it's more than just the owner of the business, we require them to have E-Verify. And if they don't, we don't work with them. And then the next thing is just we have to report that we participate in E-Verify as a city, like for our employees. And so those are all of the immigration reports that we have to do with the state every year.
Thank you. As Mr. Strickland stated, you'll note that we're not on that list anywhere, and that really is a good thing. But many cities are on that list. During our 2024 Georgia legislative session, Georgia House Representative Josh Bonner, who represents a big chunk of Peachtree City, sponsored a bill, HB 1105, the Georgia Criminal Alien Track and Report Act of 2024. I invited Representative Bonner to speak tonight, and he would have gladly come to speak personally about the bill, but he's at his daughter's 16th birthday party tonight. House Bill 1105 was approved by the House and Senate and was sent to the governor for his signature. Governor Brian Kemp signed HB 1105 into law on May 1st, yesterday. It takes effect on December 31st, 2024. I did ask Representative Bonner for a summary of HB 1105. This is what he sent to me yesterday. Suzanne, here is the summary of HB 1105 you requested. This bill is being signed today by Governor Kemp. HB 1105 is the Georgia Criminal Alien Track and Report Act of 2024. The bill requires Georgia law enforcement officials to work in conjunction with federal immigration authorities and to send, receive, and maintain information relating to the immigration status of any individual as reasonably needed for public safety purposes. Any sheriff's office or law enforcement agency of a local governing body that acts in violation is subject to the withholding of state funding or state-administered federal funding other than to provide services required in subsection D of OCGA 50-36-1. As a condition of funding, the Department of Community Affairs, the Department of Transportation, or any other state agency that provides funding to local governing bodies will require certification of compliance with requirements in Code Section 50-36-4 for submission of annual immigration compliance reports. Any funding withheld from a sheriff's office is remitted to the county. The legislation provides standard procedures for booking of aliens and foreign nationals and requires jailers to prepare quarterly reports outlining several categories of information for each jail jurisdiction. The bill provides that a first violation of the requirements in this code section is a misdemeanor. Any second or subsequent violation is a misdemeanor of a high and aggravated nature. Let me know if you need any additional information. Sincerely, Josh Bonner, Georgia State House District 73. Actions taken by our legislature to protect us from the devastating impact of massive illegal immigration should be applauded and embraced. To have one of the 3 Georgia reps as a sponsor of this bill is an excellent, well, I should say the 3 Peachtree City reps, is an excellent thing, and we need to say thank you to Josh Bonner. I asked Josh if he saw any issues with us declaring that we are not a sanctuary city. He said, and I quote, "I think it would send a message to the citizens that their government recognizes the impact of illegal aliens flooding our border and let them know that Peachtree City will not tolerate it. This border issue is out of control. We need to be addressing it at every level possible, and ultimately we are responsible to the people who voted for us." Keep in mind that Josh Bonner is also in the National Guard, and he could get deployed to the border. For him, it's personal. On December 31st, 2024, HB 1105 will take effect. So why not thank our legislators for protecting us? So in order to do that, I prepared a resolution. Resolution of the City Council of Peachtree City, Georgia, in support of council policy to prevent turning Peachtree City into something resembling a sanctuary city. Whereas the Georgia House of Representatives and Georgia Senate passed HB 1105, the Georgia Criminal Alien Track and Report Act of 2024 on April 3rd, 2024, and Brian Kemp, the Governor of Georgia, signed HB 1105 on May 1st, 2024, thereby codifying it into law that will take effect on December 31st, 2024. And whereas Peachtree City is in compliance with Code Section 36-80-23 of the Official Code of Georgia, annotated relating to the prohibition of immigration sanctuary policies by local governmental entities and certification of compliance with regulations. And whereas Peachtree City is in compliance and will continue to comply with all new regulations and guidelines under HB 1105, the Georgia Criminal Alien Track and Report Act of 2024, and whereas should illegal immigrants commit crimes in our jurisdiction, we would submit to the district attorney that she prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law, following all guidelines in the recently passed HB 1105, and work with the federal agencies, and officials as warranted under all Georgia and federal laws. And whereas there have been 10 million illegal immigrant encounters at the border, plus gotaways and those crossing undetected. And whereas Congressman Jim Jordan states that the way to deal with the many problems posed by illegal immigration is threefold: secure the border, robustly enforce our immigration laws, and fix the system so that it works for those who want to come to our country legally by working hard, learning the language, and becoming Americans. And whereas being a nation of immigrants has made our nation great, but Congressman Jordan warns illegal immigration is unfair to the many people from around the world who want to come to the United States legally, as well as being a serious threat to our homeland security. And whereas cities of all sizes across the nation are in budgetary distress due to the flood of illegal immigrants into their jurisdictions, and whereas we do not support Peachtree City taxpayer funding being used to shelter or maintain illegal immigrants, with the exception of those we must house during their incarceration, whereas we recognize the significant threat to our nation, state, county, and municipality from the massive waves of illegal immigration, now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and city council of the city of Peachtree City do hereby officially recognize the significant threat to our nation, state, county, and municipality from the massive waves of illegal immigration, and be it also resolved that we urge law enforcement at all levels to be diligent, taking all measures necessary to apprehend members of criminal gangs, terrorists, members of drug cartels, human traffickers, and all others committing crimes in our beloved city who have crossed our border and are endangering our citizens, and be it also resolved that the mayor and city council of the city of Peachtree City applaud Georgia House Representative Josh Bonner, the members of the Georgia House of Representatives and the Georgia Senate who passed HB 1105 in April, and Governor Brian Kemp for protecting the citizens of the state of Georgia by signing HB 1105 into law on May 1st, 2024. Be it also resolved that Peachtree City is not a sanctuary city and will work to maintain that fact.
Are you making a motion?
I make a motion, Madam Mayor, that we approve the resolution.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I will start by saying that this does nothing more than attest that we follow the law and we will continue to follow the law. Peachtree City is not a sanctuary city. It is redundant and unnecessary. The state has already got laws in place. They're taking care of this at the state level. No one I have spoken to has asked for this, and several of our citizens have expressed extreme concern about this measure. I do not support this resolution or any further conversation on the topic. Moving forward, this would carry a risk to our city, according to our own police department. So therefore, I am a resounding no. Mr. DeStadio?
Can we get a comment from Chief Moon?
No, we've already had it made very clear in our last council meeting and in our 2x2 meetings with the assistant police chief and our city manager that this is a risk to our city.
I agree. I've talked to the assistant chief, and he's made those comments as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would vote no.
Ms. Johnson, any comments?
I've said what I needed to say.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no.
No.
Resolution does not pass. Old agenda items, we have none. New agenda item.
Madam Mayor, point of order. Just, I forgot to do this in my previous, my topic here. I just wanted my slides and my handout, which didn't make it here, but it was sent to everybody as part of the minutes. That's all I wanted.
No, well, we won't have the slides in because they weren't in the meeting.
We do keep a copy of the actual slides on record, but they don't go into the actual minutes.
Why is that, if I may ask?
Because they're not in the meeting. The minutes of the meeting did not show.
So I
We can
had
share
to-
information, Mr. Holland. We
Yeah.
can absolutely share
Just,
information.
it would be nice to be able to have citizens at least look at it. That's what I'm hoping for.
They won't be in the meeting minutes because they weren't in the meeting.
And how about my packet that went out? Would that be in the meeting?
No,
So it won't be in the packet. The packet actually went out on Friday. Your email went out on Tuesday after the packet was, that's why it didn't make it to the actual. But as a matter of fact, the video is recorded, this meeting is recorded. Anyone can go on to our social media or our YouTube page to look at both the items that were presented and discussed. So the agenda
Okay.
presentation does show up, the presentation you provided during the meeting does show up on YouTube as well as on our social media pages to go back.
But I think, just to verify your question, you're asking if your proposed changes could be in the next minutes.
Correct.
So minutes are usually discussion items, and how the mayor read them will be listed in the actual minutes, but the physical document will not be provided.
But the physical document, along with any other comments that other council members submit, will all be part of the packet moving forward from staff to the planning commission.
Okay, so it may not be in the minutes, but it'll be in the packet going down there. Thank you.
Correct.
all right,
Yes.
thank you.
That's
New
good.
agenda item 52401, fiscal year 2025, nonprofit funding, Fayette County Council on Domestic Violence. Can I get a motion,
Yes.
Mr. Holm?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve item 052401, fiscal year, I gotta get my glasses on, sorry, everybody. Fiscal year 2025, nonprofit funding, Fayette County Council on Domestic Violence, called Promise Place,
In the amount of $10,000?
in the amount of $10,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item B, 52402, nonprofit funding, Fayette Senior Services. Can I get a motion?
I'll make it easy this time. I will make a motion to approve item B under new agenda items in the amount of $15,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Public hearing, 52403, new alcohol license.
Okay, the protocol for non-zoning matters. When the public hearing is open, members of the council will become hearers. No action on their part is in order until the mayor decides the hearing is complete. First, city staff will present the item. The mayor will then allow a total of 10 minutes for members of the public to speak. No individual member of the public will be given more than 5 minutes to speak. Time limits may only be extended by a majority vote of council. Prior to closing the public hearing, city staff and the public will be given the opportunity to ask questions. When the mayor is assured that input is complete, the public hearing shall be ended and council may then debate the issue and render a decision. All speakers from the public are asked to follow these rules. Please wait to be recognized by the mayor. Come to the microphone and state your name and neighborhood prior to making remarks. Keep individual remarks under 5 minutes, and please do not repeat others' comments. Address all comments to the mayor.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I come before you in regards to a alcohol application that was submitted by the company is called Flair Bourbon. The location is 21 Eastbrook Bend in Suite 226. The applicant, Ms. Camilla Hubner, as well as the location meet all requirements to receive an alcohol license. However, I can state that this alcohol application is a little bit different than our usual applications. In this case, the applicant is actually an alcohol broker, which means they purchase the alcohol from a manufacturer or distillery, and they are able to, per the state law, a broker is someone who buys or gets alcoholic beverages from an importer, distillery, brewery, or winery to sell to another broker, importer, or wholesaler. As we've spoken to our city attorney, we actually have an all-encompassing alcohol ordinance. And based on the description and the definition that's provided by the state, we were able to find a similar description. It's not exact, but a similar description in order to approve an alcohol license for the applicant, which would be under wholesaler. The definition of the city is any person who sells alcoholic beverages to wholesale dealers, to retail dealers, or to retail consumption dealers. So in this case, the broker state license advises that it sells to a wholesaler as well as our license. So it does fall within that category. And we've also verified this information with our city attorney.
Thank you. And is the applicant present this evening? Would you like to make a comment? Welcome.
Thank you very much. My name's Camilla Hubner. I'm here for Flair Bourbon. The notice before the council this evening says that we have applied for an alcohol broker's license. Now, there is no provision for an alcohol broker's license in the city ordinance, and that license simply doesn't exist. So it's very hard to regulate a license and impose a license on a company where a license doesn't exist and there's no governance in relation to that. Now, Ms. Julio says that wholesaler dealer may apply. Our position is it doesn't apply. In fact, it's contradictory to state law to grant a wholesale license to a broker. A broker, by definition, is not able to manufacture, possess, sell, hold title to, have an inventory of alcohol. I can confirm that at our business office in Peachtree City that we do not manufacture, possess, hold, sell any alcohol in Peachtree City. This is merely a business address. We contract with a distillery, and all the alcohol ships directly from the distillery in another part of Georgia. So our position is, in fact, that there is no city ordinance to compel a license to be issued to us as a broker in the state of Georgia. And accordingly, this is a highly compliant industry, and we are using our best endeavours to ensure that federally and at state level we are compliant. With respect, an alcohol broker's licence, there is no ability for the City of Peachtree City to grant us that at this stage. And in fact, we've had conversations with Mr. Meeker about and acknowledging that in fact the city ordinance doesn't require that at the moment, and that it should be changed. And we agree wholeheartedly that it should change. And once it's in place, we will absolutely follow the ordinance and make sure that we're in compliance. But as it currently stands, our business is being held up at a state level. Our state licensing for a broker is not allowed to proceed until we have the occupation tax certificate from the City of Peachtree City, which has been issued to us, but then rescinded by the city, saying that the alcohol licence needed to be issued in conjunction with the occupation tax certificate in order for our business to move forward. At the moment, we're hamstrung. We cannot trade until such time as we can provide the occupation tax certificate to the state for our broker's licence to be issued by the state. That is the one thing holding up our state licensing. We already have federal licensing, and as it currently stands, there is no city ordinance which states that an alcohol licence for brokers needs to be issued in the City of Peachtree City.
Okay, so to be clear, Ms. Hubner,
Yes.
we have on our council meeting agenda this evening, either we will approve your application for a new alcohol license or we will disapprove it.
Yes.
Do you want us to approve it or do you want us to disapprove it?
This is where I'm in the hands of the council, because we find ourselves in a difficult situation where we contend if an alcohol licence, as per the notice before the council tonight, it states that an alcohol licence, broker's licence, will be issued. Doesn't exist. That licence does not exist.
Let me just provide some clarification, and I would like Ted to kind of chime in as well. Overarching, we have an alcohol ordinance that states anyone who sells alcohol in the City of Peachtree City must hold a license. So unfortunately, Ms. Hubner must get a license in the City of Peachtree City, even though we do not have a specific alcohol broker license titled by definition. There are other various means, but that does not negate the fact that there is an additional ordinance or part of the ordinance that says anyone who sells alcohol in the city must hold a license. And that's where we are now. Ted, if you'd like to.
Could I just add to that we actually don't sell any alcohol in Peachtree City?
Sure.
So,
I understand. We've had very good dialogue back and forth over the last couple weeks on this issue. My children tell me I shouldn't speak in parables, so I'm going to try to avoid that. But I will tell you, when I was a young lawyer, I wrote a great ordinance to prohibit sales of food from vehicles. And it was great until we got to the spring and realized we had outlawed the ice cream trucks from selling ice cream to children. Likewise, a couple years ago, we had a group come to us because our alcohol ordinance didn't accommodate a scenario that is now Line Creek Brewery. We worked with lawyers for the brewery, checked in some other jurisdictions, and updated our ordinance. In other words, we write these ordinances, we try to write them as broad as possible because we all know what happens when we don't write it as broad as possible and somebody sneaks in a loophole. This is something we have not done before. The way the definitions in our ordinance reads, we believe she has to have a license. We also understand some of the complications that can cause her when she goes to the state. This is going to let us give her occupation tax certificate, which she then will be able to utilize to start her business. In the process, we are going to update our alcohol ordinance, because this is something new, to include a broker's license, at least on a local level, so that we don't run into this problem again. I mean, it's just something new that we had not dealt with before. We want to certainly accommodate. In fact, she's in between a rock and a hard place. She's ready to go. She's waiting on this in order to go. We have offered to try to get this, up in a new ordinance before council, but she wanted to pursue this evening, which is why it's now here. Our recommendation, of course, I think she meets all the requirements, is to issue the license so we can issue the occupation tax certificate. And in the meantime, it's certainly going to be a more easy process for her next year when it comes to getting whatever she needs from the city in order to continue with her state license. Because we're looking to change something to where we don't have to have this debate again, because I anticipate this is becoming there's not a whole bunch of them, but this type of arrangement, brokers, is becoming a bigger group of people in the state. So we certainly want to accommodate it. I think it's, not to mention she has bourbon as one of the things she sells. And we all know how I feel about bourbon.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyway, we're just, and then as we go forward, we're gonna, talk to council, talk among staff in terms of how to best handle this. But I've already come up with some language that I've sent to staff, and I think you're going to be seeing that in the not too distant future.
And, yeah, I absolutely agree, and we are more than happy to work with you to get the wording right, given the high level of compliance that's required at federal and state level. Our concern is that if a wholesale licence is issued by the city now, as is provided for in the current city ordinance, that does not apply to us. We are not a wholesaler. In fact, that is a tier 2 licence in the 3-tiered structure for alcohol regulation in the country. And every tier is separate and distinct, and one is not allowed to cross over tiers. It's federally prohibited. So in fact, in giving us a licence, a wholesale licence, we're breaking the law.
Well, we could end up turning it down. Is that what you want us to do?
Well, this is the difficult position that we're faced. We want to trade. We want to do business in Peachtree City. We want to be here. If there is no ordinance in place for us right now, we submit that we should be allowed to go about our business. And as Mr. Meeker has said, he will do his best to get some language in place to ensure that there is correct governance in place. At this stage, the city has also acknowledged that in issuing a wholesaler's licence to us under the current ordinance, that in fact they would have to breach the city ordinance to do that, particularly in reference to the excise tax provisions. The excise tax provisions in the city ordinance, as they relate to a wholesaler, the city has acknowledged they do not apply to us, because we don't collect excise tax. It's not payable as a broker in Georgia. It's payable by a wholesaler. We're not a wholesaler. So therefore, in issuing a licence, a wholesale licence to us, which is not before the council tonight, it's not a wholesale licence, it's an alcohol broker's licence. That's what the notice says. It doesn't exist. The alcohol broker's licence doesn't exist. The wholesale licence is the wrong licence because it will mean breaching federal and state laws to issue that. So this is the position. We are just trying to be compliant. And we are in a position where we hopefully will have wording around the city ordinance to make sure that there is no confusion, that everybody knows what the rules are. But at the moment, the way the city ordinance stands, if an alcohol licence is issued to us as a wholesale dealer, it will be breaching at least 2 state laws for the city to do that, and it will also be breaching the local city ordinance in a number of...
Mrs. Hubner, can I interject and ask the councilor a question?
Yeah, sure.
If you don't mind, excuse me, Madam Mayor, may I ask
You
a
have the
question?
floor here.
Okay, thank you. What I want to do is there a way around this tonight that we can accommodate, even temporarily, Ms. Hubner, am I pronouncing that right? Hubner?
Hubner, yeah.
Hubner, okay. Accommodate her tonight and give her what she's looking for so she can proceed with the business that she has, and welcome to Peachtree City.
Thank you, sir.
But we need to get some way to find a way around that, and I know that you know about the end runs that maybe you can help us out with.
Well,
He just explained it all to us.
Yeah,
He
but
just did.
I just want a little bit more clarification.
no, I mean, to be honest with you, that's what we've tried to do. We understand the dilemma she's in. And she's right. Right now, we don't technically have a broker's license, but we also don't want, when she has to go forward, her to have any problem. That's why we labeled it on the agenda as a broker's license, as opposed to a wholesale license. Yes, we've acknowledged that they're tier 1, so there is no excise tax collected. Yes, we're trying to do everything we can, but we're confronted with an ordinance that's on the books that's broad, and staff doesn't feel like it has the ability to just waive that requirement. We have to live with what's in black and white in our ordinance books.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to open the public hearing. We'll go through our protocol. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to speak in favor? Good luck. Hearing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition?
Good evening, I'm Keith Larson, I'm a Peachtree City resident. It seems clear that the business applicant is asking for a very simple thing. She needs her occupancy tax so she can proceed to work with state and federal authorities so she can do her trade. She's not selling to Peachtree City residents. We're not walking into her front door and give me a bourbon. That's not happening. So there's no exchange of money from Peachtree City residents for the consumption of alcohol on presence. It seems like that there may be a general business license and occupancy for trade or distribution should be applied in this case because she's outside of the scope of the interpretation I have as discussed by your council. So I recommend that the city council deny this license because it's inappropriate and it's not authorized by your ordinance, and in place allow this business to proceed with an issue of an occupancy tax certificate under general distribution provisions, and then she can get on her business, and at the appropriate time the city wants to move forward to categorize her business as a new type of business in the city, then do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in opposition? I hereby close the public hearing. Council? Questions, comments?
I have some.
I'll get to you in a minute.
Yep.
No, y'all can go ahead.
Ms. Brown?
You know, my mother used to always say, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Somewhere I think that applies in this case. If you need some sort of paperwork to go forward from now to do your business, and if the city is saying, you know, we'll fix the ordinance, we'll make it okay for you as soon as we can, I don't want you to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Maybe you should allow us to approve this for you as it stands, because the other thing that we could do is just delay your application and you're sitting on hold, which, so I mean, you're driving the bus on that one, because I don't see anything in what we're doing here as a reason for us to say, no, you're not qualified. You're qualified for what is in front of us. And so you're driving the bus.
Yeah, I guess we just want it to be right, and we have offered to Mr. Meeker a compromise for this solution moving forward whilst the ordinance is being amended, and that is that is to the occupation tax certificate has been issued by the city for us. That's all we need for the state. The state have said we do not need an alcohol city licence. They don't require us to have it. Most cities do not require that. Brokers to have an alcohol city licence because there's nothing to regulate. There's no alcohol in the city. We have offered to pay a licensing fee to be held in trust whilst as a sign of good faith that we want to stay in Peachtree City, that we want to be here and do business here. If the occupation tax certificate can be validated, because we were instructed by the city that we were not allowed to submit that to the state until the alcohol licence had issued. What we request is that the occupation tax certificate, we be allowed to use that to submit it to the state for our state broker's licence, whilst the regulations and the city ordinance are being changed here in Peachtree City to accommodate our business.
Ted, was that an option they gave you?
That was the option that she suggested.
What's your point of view on that, Ted?
The problem is we don't have any variance or waiver provisions in our alcohol ordinance like we do for other sections of our ordinances, but ultimately it's council discretion.
Can we just authorize a occupational license and let it go with that?
Well, council doesn't typically get involved in occupation tax certificates.
Trying to just find a way.
I would suggest that we continue with the process, that we may decide to approve, and then you can be on your way.
If council makes a motion to deny the license, but instructs staff to issue the occupation tax certificate, that is something that obviously council can do that.
I mean, is that what you want?
We just require the occupation tax certificate.
Well, that's easier.
That's an easy one.
All right, any last questions,
Wait,
council?
yeah, I gotta ask her one more time,
Of course.
because the baby's in the bathwater.
Yes?
You're holding the basin and you're getting ready to throw it out. Are you sure you don't want the alcohol license?
We will need the alcohol license, but it needs to be the correct alcohol license. Otherwise, ourselves and we submit the city will be breaching state and federal laws in issuing it. This is the difficulty.
How long, can I ask a question? How long will it take for us to clear this up and get the right ordinance on our books?
That's your question, Justin. Next agenda or the one after it?
Would you like to table your application to a future, maybe, there's our solution. Do you want to table it?
I mean,
Is that,
We originally recommended doing something similar to what Line Creek did, where she would wait for, but she was very urgent, trying to get, and that's why we were trying to assist her with trying to get a license, a alcohol license.
I'm not here to solve this for you, but I can approve the alcohol license and send you on your positive direction.
Can we just, that's not actually what we're asking, because it will be wrong. And that also then triggers a license fee that's payable of $5,000 that we say is actually not the right license and therefore it shouldn't be payable at this time. We just want the occupation tax certificate, and then the ordinance, Mr. Meeker had indicated that maybe 60 days, it could have the wording around the ordinance. That will resolve the problem, and nobody will be breaking any city ordinances or any federal or state laws in doing that.
Thank you.
We have went around the world many times
about
with
this?
prior.
How about a temporary one?
Motion to,
Postpone.
Temporary license?
Let's,
for staff to issue an occupation tax certificate conditioned upon subsequent broker's license being issued to her after we update the ordinance.
We would agree to that.
Want to make a motion on that?
do we have to put a time frame on any of that, Ted?
I would say no more than 60 days, but 45 days to 60 days.
And we have every reason to believe we can fast track an ordinance change
I've already got the
on that?
definition of the term broker, which is what we need to add, and then identify a separate license for brokers. It should not be the fee that, it's not gonna be a wholesaler's fee, because that's a whole different thing.
Right,
It's not gonna be an on-premise consumption or a package store
right.
fee, because there's
There's-
just not the
there's
regulation that
nothing
goes with
on-premises.
it. It's truly gonna be an administrative type fee.
Right.
I don't know what that's going to be. I have a number or two in my head, but it's going to be like considerably less than
Than the regular liquor license.
considerably less than the other licenses.
Madam Mayor,
yes, Mr.
Can I-
DeSadio.
can I make a motion that we accept the words that our attorney has said? You can make the official motion with all the language.
Please do, Mr. Meeker.
And I'll second that emotion.
Well, let's get the motion on the
Get it
table,
out of the
Mr.
box.
Holland.
Do we have it from what I said a minute ago, or it's in the minutes somewhere, right? No? Okay.
Martha can't write that
The
fast.
motion would be to issue an occupation tax certificate to the applicant, conditioned on her getting a broker's license once the ordinance is amended, not later than 60 days from today's date.
That's my motion.
And I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank
Welcome
you,
to
and best
Peachtree
of luck.
City.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
And you
I
saved the
appreciate it.
baby.
Save the baby.
I'm not even gonna write down.
Public hearing,
Down.
52404, variance request from side setback, 838 Carnelian Lane.
Short people problems. I'm going to quickly go over the request, and then the applicant will be able to answer any questions you may have. The property is located at 838 Carnelian, shown here in the cyan outline. You can see it's a pie-shaped property, zoned R22, and there's a 15-foot side setback. Their request is to allow an existing outdoor fireplace structure to encroach 15 feet into the 15-foot side setback. The fireplace was built without a permit, and when staff was notified of this, we did issue a notice of violation. They have since applied for the permit, but we are unable to issue it unless a variance is granted. I always have to include these so that they are on record. These are the 6 variance criteria, and include that a special circumstance exists to the property, that strict interpretation would be and create an unnecessary hardship, that there are extraordinary circumstances associated with the request, that granting of the variance would not constitute granting a special privilege, and it would not have a materially detrimental effect on the public health, safety, or general welfare, or create inconsistencies with the objectives of the comprehensive plan. So the applicant did provide us some pictures. I'm sorry, no, actually, these are code enforcement pictures so that you can see. You all have a hard copy here. They were not included in your packet, so we are showing them tonight to everybody at the same time. On the left is the situation showing that it was actually built over the property line, and on the right is the property owner has remedied that, and it shows that the property line is no longer breached, and therefore the variance request is for the structure to remain. So I believe the applicant is here tonight? Yes. Please come up and provide us any further information you'd like to have.
Mayor Leonard and members of the City Council, my name is Jerry Olin. Myself and my wife Joanne reside at 838 Carnelian Lane in Kedron Hill subdivision. We're here tonight requesting your approval for a variance for a fireplace we had built in our backyard in 2021. As you decide the fate of our fireplace, Joanne and I would ask you to consider the following question that we have been asking ourselves for months. In what way would demolishing this fireplace benefit Peachtree City or its residents? We relocated to Peachtree City in 2014 as a retirement move. After 18 months of apartment living, we finally found a beautiful home, a senior-friendly home in Kedron Hills that had a very small backyard. The plat we received at closing when we bought the house did not depict any setbacks. From our earliest days in the house, we envisioned a small patio courtyard with a fireplace, a seat wall, and a water feature. After years of planning and saving, we interviewed 3 landscape design and installation companies. None of these companies raised an alarm regarding any setback issues, and none of them mentioned that a building permit was required for a fireplace. We ultimately chose A. Abbey Group to install our backyard. Prior to installation, we specifically asked A. Abbey Group project manager if we needed a building permit for our project. And we were told that we, A. Abbey Group, have built fireplaces all over Peachtree City for years without ever needing a building permit. Our project manager went on to explain that since our seat wall was only 18 inches high, a building permit was not required for that. Joanne and I also scoured the city's website for building permit guidance, and we could not find the word fireplace or any specific reference to an outdoor fireplace as a structure anywhere on the website. As A. Abbey Group was an experienced, well-known, and reputable contractor in Peachtree City, we felt we were receiving knowledgeable and accurate advice from them regarding city compliance issues. Only when code enforcement visited our house last year did we find out that A. Abbey Group was seriously mistaken in their advice to us regarding a building permit, and their failure to advise us that a variance request would be required. A. Abbey Group's failures alone should qualify this variance request as a special circumstance. We ultimately paid A. Abbey Group $62,000 to complete the project 3 years ago. The fireplace and seat wall alone cost more than $20,000. Joanne and I believe that we have satisfactorily answered the 6 variance criteria questions that the city has posed. Also, I would note that our fireplace sits halfway down our neighbor's 300-foot flag lot driveway, which is over 200 feet from the nearest home. We also are screened from those neighbors by 10-foot mature clayeras, holly bushes, and laura pedlums. So this fireplace can be seen by a pedestrian or by a vehicle for a matter of seconds. Then it's not visible from any other side of the house. Many of our neighbors have voiced their support for allowing our fireplace to remain. They say while the fireplace is barely visible from the street, it adds character and beauty to our home and the neighborhood, and to Peachtree City. Forcing us to demolish this fireplace will leave a gaping hole in our tiny backyard. It will dramatically affect the overall appearance of our small courtyard, and it will come at considerable expense to Joanne and myself. All we are asking for is a variance for the fireplace. At its shallowest point, it's less than 3 feet into the setback. It averages 50%, less than 50% of the side setback. So that is what we're asking for. And in closing, I would once again ask, in what way would demolishing this fireplace benefit Peachtree City or its residents? We respectfully ask you to grant us the variance and allow our fireplace to remain standing. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone?
I need to read the,
Oh, I thought we already did. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that.
No,
New,
it's okay.
new protocol.
when the public hearing is open, members of council will become hearers. No action on their part is in order until the mayor declares the hearing complete. First, city staff will present the request and provide an assessment of compliance with city code. The mayor will then allow up to 10 minutes for speakers on each side of the issue to present evidence. No individual member of the public will be given more than 5 minutes to speak. Time limits may only be extended by a majority vote of council, be divided equally between those supporting and those opposing the issue. The mayor will recognize the applicant and those supporting the issue to present evidence. Remarks will be limited to a total of 10 minutes. The mayor will then recognize those opposing the issue to present evidence for up to 10 minutes. Prior to closing the public hearing, city staff and the public will be given the opportunity to ask questions of either or both sides of the issue. When the mayor and council are assured that the presentation of evidence is complete, the public hearing shall be ended and council may then debate the issue and render a decision. All speakers from the public are asked to follow these rules. Please wait to be recognized by the mayor. Come to the microphone and state your name and neighborhood prior to making remarks. Keep individual remarks under 5 minutes and do not repeat comments. Address all comments to the mayor.
Thank you. At this time, I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the variance? Seeing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition of this variance? Seeing none, I hereby close the public hearing. Council?
Go ahead.
Y'all are all looking at me first.
Oh,
here.
goody.
Sucker.
This is a tricky one, but for me, I feel like we are here to serve our citizens. This is a situation where I think we have good, law-abiding citizens who in good faith were trying to do the best that they could. And could they have done better? Possibly. Could they have gone to our building department and asked some questions? Possibly. But I don't think anything was done with malicious intent, which doesn't really, intent doesn't matter. A law was still broken, or, an ordinance was broken here. It goes 100% into the setback, which when I hear that, that's definitely something I don't like to hear. However, the only portion of this that is out of compliance is something the size of a chimney. So the part of this that backs up to the neighbor's property is on their driveway. I don't think that this is something that is hurting that neighbor, because that is not where their house is. It's what did they say, a 300-foot driveway? And this is on the other side of this hedge. In the narrative, I think they said that this neighbor originally said as long as it's on that side of the hedge, that they are okay with it. I would say it is a hardship for us to make them tear down this thousands of dollar fireplace for something that is the size of a chimney that I feel is attractive, and I would support it staying.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
These are the times when this is not an easy job. Section 18-111.1, Section A states that a permit is required for any structure that is regulated by the construction codes. Only the fireplace chimney structure is regulated by the city's codes because it's taller than 5 feet and therefore requires a suitable foundation. The purpose of this requirement is to prevent tipping or other failure of the chimney that could result in fire or other harm to life. And granted, in looking at this, I don't think it's gonna tip, but that's the way it's written. Could result in fire or harm to life and property. The low seating area, the outdoor water feature, and paved patio are not regulated by construction codes and may therefore encroach into the side setback on this lot. Mr. Olin, one of the things that I was kind of concerned with is, do you have any physical documentation or paperwork or whatever that shows what a Abbey Group told you?
No, ma'am, we do not. We took their verbal assurances along with.
Oh, thank you, Robin.
Oh, I'm sorry.
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 We can hear you, but the video can't, so.
We accepted their assurances along with the other two companies that we interviewed that said the same thing. And so we, in our due diligence, went to the city website to see if we could confirm, and we couldn't find anything at all that referred to a fireplace. Now, later on, months later, we did see an addendum or a footnote in the company, in the city's website that said, that defined a structure. It's something that required a substantial base, and we weren't aware of that when we first looked at the city ordinances. But
Could you repeat that question again about Abbey Group?
do we
Well,
have?
I wondered whether you had documentation that they told you you didn't need a permit.
We don't have documentation, but we actually.
Microphone, please. I'm so sorry.
Excuse me, we don't have documentation from Abbey Group, but we do have their verbal assurance. We have
Yeah.
just had that in the last month. And if they were here, they would probably admit, we said that. We did say that you don't need it. Quote unquote, we don't ever get a permit for outdoor fireplaces. You're good. And I can give you the name of the project manager who repeated that to us not less than a month ago. But we don't have a physical document. I can get that to you.
I'm sure Frank here from the Planning Commission is probably cringing at some of this stuff. But you didn't have a survey done prior to the construction, only after, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And did you personally speak to anyone in the Peachtree City Building Department prior to beginning the construction on the fireplace? Because really, the fireplace is all that's at issue right now.
Right.
Everything else is okey-dokey in the setback. It's the fireplace.
Right.
So,
Ma'am, our conversations with the city building department, which have been wonderful and pleasant, have only been in the last year, and we built
So
the fireplace
after the
2
fact.
years
So
ago,
after the
3 years
fact.
ago, so
Okay.
no.
And did you invite anybody from Abbey Group to come here tonight? Or did you not?
We did not.
Yes, okay. I mean, they probably would not have come. Do you foresee any option that you have where you could reduce the height of the chimney to 5 feet or under? Because 5 feet is the height, from what I read, that puts it into something that requires the variance, and any chimney less than 5 feet. Is that correct, Robin? So anything, if the fireplace chimney, no, she needs the mic. If the fireplace chimney is 5 feet or less, they don't need this variance.
they don't need a building permit at that point,
Okay.
and therefore don't need a variance.
Any other questions, Ms. Brown?
No, that's the end of my questions. Thanks for now.
Thank you. Mr. DeStadio?
I'm interested in the one individual that complained. I don't know, I guess
Eversman.
this is your document I'm reading?
Let's just stick to the question. What's your question, Mr. DeStadio?
Well, I'd like to know what the complaint really was. It says, Mr. Averson?
I can answer that question for you if you like.
You need to go up there, yes, sir. Made a formal complaint with the city code enforcement saying that they did not get a permit for the fireplace.
Council members and Madam Mayor, my name is Ryan Aversman. My wife Krista and my 2 boys reside next door to the property in
Could I ask
question.
a point of order? Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Is-
yes, Ms.
In
Brown.
in this particular section, are we allowed to ask somebody other than,
We can ask the question.
okay.
What was in your document here?
So-
Right, I saw you looking through that. I didn't hear anything about that. I didn't know if you all had that document in front of you. I saw you flipping through it, and then I kind of wanted to say something, and you gave me the opportunity, so thank you. They make it seem like after 2 years, we decided to go check the permit status of the chimney, and that's not what happened. 2 years after they built this, I came home from work and found a deer fence being built on my property, and I texted Mr. Olin about this. I got no response. I said I need to order a new survey because this deer fence appears to be on my property by quite a bit, but I didn't know for sure. And it took a week and a half to get this survey done. I heard nothing back. I took 2 pictures of them. I've got the pictures here of what that deer fence looked like. And then during that time is when the survey got done a week and a half later, and sure enough, the entire deer fence was on my property. And the construction guy, or the survey tech says, well, come look at this. Come to the front and look down the line of where the survey was done. And that's when we saw that portions of the fireplace, the sitting wall, and the water feature were on our property. It was nothing to do with a permit status or a setback. I have no idea. I didn't know about setbacks or permit statuses. All I knew was at that point, we found out that 3 of these structures, after 2 years being built, were on our property. And that's what started this whole thing.
This was before they were built?
No, after. This was at the end of August, 2023.
So 2 years after it was built.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's all my question.
Yeah. Any other questions? Mr. Holland?
I just looked at what I would say the consideration points that we should take in looking at a variance. And I'm just going to cite a couple of those, and it's really more comments than questions at this point, Madam Mayor. Is that okay? Any
Sure.
comment?
Sure.
Thank you. I see that says here, variances we need to look at if they have practical difficulties or they will have unnecessary hardships that are inconsistent with what you would normally do. It also says these are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances we would allow variances. And we also look at things like that they're not inconsistent with granting anything special for this or anything in the future. And lastly, it is not materially detrimental to the public or health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. So when I read those out of what is a part of our ordinances of zoning, I find that this particular place that the Olins put up, this fireplace they put up, is basically falls in the categories of, yes, there was a mistake made, but to have them go and take down a $60,000 a fireplace when they have meeting all of these special circumstances in our ordinances of allowing variances, I would say it pretty much meets all of those circumstances of items, probably A, B, C, D, and E of our ordinance. And in that case, I'd be in favor of allowing this variance.
Thank you. In my opinion, this is, granting the variance is what best serves our citizens. I don't see any, I think requiring the removal might be a little bit of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So with that, any last comments or questions? Can I get a motion?
Madam Mayor, I motion to approve this variance as stated and allow this to go through. Do I have
I'll
to give it
second.
more than that?
No.
Okay.
I'll second
I have a
that.
motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you. Public hearing 5/24/05. Variance request from maximum fence height, 101 Cockspur Road.
This property is located in what I like to call the Gulf View area. It's at the corner of Cockspur Court and Gulf View Drive. And the applicant is requesting to build a 6-foot tall privacy fence. And let me, there we go. Orient you. The solid lines are their property lines. This is a outline of their house foundation. It faces Cockspur Court. And then they have this yard along Gulfview Drive. The ordinance states that any fence that is built in front of the plane of the house and the property line adjacent to a public or private right-of-way must be a maximum of 4 feet tall. In this case, they are bumping the fence out 9 feet, and therefore they must, per our ordinance, would be required to be 4 feet maximum, but they are requesting to allow a 6-foot maximum fence in that area instead. The rest of this dotted outline can be 6 feet by right. So the applicant has provided some photos that were included in your packet, a few of which are here, and they are able, I believe they're here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Would the applicant care to make any comments?
Good evening. My name is Brian Bureau. My wife and I own 101 Cockspur Court. It's a house that my grandparents lived in for 50 years, and we hope to occupy for the next 50. We bought it because we trusted in what Peachtree City can offer our family. We love the house, and we love the great memories in that house. Part of the process is transferring this house from a 90-year-old couple to a young growing family. So I'm here today to ask you all to approve my variance to request for a 6-foot privacy fence. The reason I have to request this variance is because the front of my house is on the corner of Cockspur Court and Gulfview Drive, and I'm actually asking for the fence on the opposite side of the house that's on the corner. But my request not only ensures the safety of my family, but everybody who uses Gulfview Drive as a cut-through. As it stands, I've been given 2 options: either running a fence directly off the corner of my house, and as the pictures, or I could go out towards the road and build a 4-foot, 50% see-through fence, as she stated. You can't see in the photos, but off the corner of my house is the only exit for my house. It's the main ingress and egress for the kids to go in the backyard. I work in property management. I've got a trailer, I've got tools, so I'm constantly backing my truck up there, hooking the trailer up, and taking it down. I have to run my truck right up by that door. Reason being is because there's a manhole in the center, which you can kind of see it there. It's about where the fire pit is. And the backside does have a stormwater drain. The reason I'd like to have the setback is so when I pull my truck up, I get through the fence and I can see the door. My kids can see my truck. I don't want it to be where I pull straight through and boom, we're right on top of each other. So the reason I don't want to build a 4-foot, 50% see-through fence parallel to Gulfview Drive, or as my neighbors call it, Gulfview Speedway. I'm sure you know this road is used as a cut-through for the neighborhoods off Blue Smoke Drive, and I'd just like to give you a quick rundown of the items I've picked up in my yard since this 6-week process has begun. A used sock, littered paper, a golf ball from possibly the worst slice ever on Homestead number 4, and a Fireball liquor bottle, in addition to multiple cigarette butts. That's the price to pay to live next to a road. And if that's what it takes to do, I'll do it, but I just don't want my kids, I don't want my dog, I don't want my 7 nieces and nephews picking it up, so I would just like this fence granted. So I would also like you to consider my kids. I'd like to keep things out, like I just mentioned, as well as things in. I'd like you to consider my kids playing wiffle ball, throwing a ball, a frisbee. The safety concerns of, hey, they throw it over a 4-foot fence and now they got to go chase it in the road, or they throw a frisbee and it hits a car and somebody's driving, and you know that's a pedestrian walkway too. If frisbee hits your car next, it's just disorienting if something of that measure were to happen. So, you know, in the event that I'm not granted my 6-foot fence, I think my only option would be to go with the 4-foot fence. And we would probably have to put up some Leland cypress trees to block that view and keep my kids or the ball inside the yard. And I don't know if you noticed, but that manhole is right there. It just presents the opportunity of roots growing into the sewer system. And you know, the tree branches are a whole lot less uniform than the fence, which I could control, you know, where that runs. If the Leland cypress tree grows out, that's gonna be more of a sightline factor for people driving down Gulfview than my proposed fence. So with that, I would just ask that you consider this blanket rule may not be the best case scenario for your citizens in this case, including my family and everybody who uses Gulfview Drive. So.
Thank you. At this point, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor?
Good evening again, Keith Larson, city resident. I mean, this is pretty straightforward. I mean, all those here who have tried to raise kids in the backyard in what, in this case, for his house, is his backyard. And I thought a lot of the previous discussions in the past over what constitutes your front yard in your front of your house is one street, and then the others are considered side and rear. So I think that implying that general rule of thumb to this case and for his kid safety, that you should grant this variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor? Seeing none, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I hereby close the public hearing. Council, you want to start on this end?
Sure. You know, I feel for you on this. I remember some of the things that I had to do years ago when I lived in New York State. And I think I've told that story before. And I got turned down for a variance for my daughter. So we had to put up a 4-foot fence. She learned very quickly how to get over that 4-foot fence. So I know, I feel for you. And I've made a mistake in the past where I turned down a variance that was like yours, that they wanted to protect their family. I won't make that a second time. I'm in favor.
All right. Mr. DeStadio?
Robin, would you please review the requirement for 2 front yards?
Yes, sir. So our ordinance defines a front yard as the area between the plane of the house
Right.
and any public road. And so technically, per our ordinance, this area, even though, so there's the house, so this area is the front yard, as well as this little sliver of area is also considered a front yard. Now, the ordinance, the fence ordinance says that any fence between the plane of the house and the right-of-way, maximum of 4 feet. The 50% transparency only comes into play when the driveway also crosses that yard. Yes, it's complex, but it is what it is. And so the 50% picket fence type of design is only required on this side if he were to put it up here. But the 4-foot privacy is permitted in this area. So he would be allowed a privacy fence, but he is provided a privacy fence, but the current maximum height is 4 feet.
Did that answer your question?
Yes. So if he brought it out the 9 feet that's listed here?
Right, that's, if he kept it, and he mentioned this in his presentation, if he kept it in line with the edge of the house and didn't bring it that 9 feet.
He wouldn't need a variance?
No, sir, he wouldn't.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No.
Ms. Brown?
Well, I had the same questions that Councilman DeStadio had. So it's really just the placement of the fence 9 feet away from the plane of the house that causes him to need the variance for the height?
Yes, ma'am.
Any other
I have
questions?
statements, not questions, kind of,
Sure, go
sort of.
ahead.
You know, zoning setbacks and building codes and ordinance are there for very specific reasons, and they can control what homeowners can do, which often protects their neighbors. They also control what contractors can do by forcing them to comply with specific design guidelines, et cetera. If we were to turn this down, he could actually build a fence along the plane of his house and build a 6-foot fence. It's really just moving it outward that causes the problem. Okay, your turn.
Ms. Johnson,
Is this just questions?
questions or comments and concerns?
Okay,
Where are you going
okay.
with this?
No, I appreciate Robin's answer to that, because I thought it had to be a picket fence. When I moved into our house, we built that, we were a young family, I have 5 children. I wanted to build a privacy fence, and I could not. And I surely wish I could have. And so I didn't know that it could be a privacy fence. The fact that it's only the height, I think I would be okay with that.
Can I ask a question? How is this different from the recent one? We had a fence variance where there was a pool on Blue Smoke right around the corner.
Oh, so fences that involve a pool can go through an administrative, currently can go through an administrative variance process that they can request 25% increase, which would be a 5-foot tall fence, so that, because there's a conflict between the building codes or the pool safety codes and our ordinance, and so we've created the administrative variance process for those situations. In this case, I apologize, I don't think a pool is involved, no. So you wouldn't be able to go through that process.
All right, thank you. Any last comments? Can I get a motion?
I see you looked at me, I'll give that motion. Madam Mayor, I would like to make a motion to approve item 052405, variance request for a maximum height fence at 101 Coxborough Road.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
No.
Motion carries
Motion
3-2.
passes. Okay.
Thank you. Council staff topics. Anybody?
I have a couple,
Yep,
if you don't mind, Madam.
by all means.
Okay. This is more of a public service type council topic. We are having a Memorial Day service here at the City Hall. It's going to be out at the flagpole. It's going to be on Memorial Day. It's going to be hosted by both the city, Justin and Jasmine, and also by the American Legion Post 50 right here in Peachtree City. And I would encourage everyone to come there. It's going to be quite a ceremony. They're going to have speakers there. I understand there's going to be a flyover. They're going to have a bugler, I guess, to play taps for those that have died in service. It should be quite an affair. And I'd encourage everybody to come and see it. And at the end, there's going to be some food served. So come and enjoy a little bit of celebration of that. So that's one of them.
Do you know what time?
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
I knew he'd know. The second thing is I'd like to get a little bit of an understanding if everyone here on council would approve a posting of the colors by the JROTC. You all know what that is, the Reserve Officers Training Corps at Sandy Creek. They have offered to come and do a posting of the colors. Basically, it means carrying the flags in, posting them, and saluting, saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and then retiring the flags. So it's not like it's a long affair. If anybody's been in the military, they know what that's all about. And I'm just asking if there's any issues that we could schedule that in the very near future to have them do a posting.
Fine by me.
Not a problem.
All right.
I don't think it's called posting, but it's all right.
That's what they told me it was called, but you know.
Inside.
In the Army it is? Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
Inside, Bob.
Thank you very much.
Inside.
And last but not least, I know that everyone has been talking about and thinking about and hoping that we would have some commissions set up. All I can say is that our team here is working diligently to try to get some of these done so we can start to get citizen involvement. And basically, that's it. Just stay tuned. The city manager is on this.
All right, thank you. Any others?
Yes, I would like to, I would like to speak. Just a notice for everybody, because this goes out to so many people, that the primary election is in progress and early voting is underway. The primary election is on May 21st. And I have serious advice for everybody before you go to the polls to vote. Pull up your respective sample ballot, if you can, online at home. It's like a 3-page ballot, and you're gonna be like totally lost if you walk in there not prepared. So print out the ballot, fill it out like it's a cheat sheet, and go and vote. Another item I'd like to talk about is the United States Senate, the United States House of Representatives, the Coweta County Commissioners, the Fayette County Commissioners, the Spalding County Commissioners, the Fayetteville City Council, the Tyrone Town Council, the Noonan City Council. I'd like to ask, in general, what do they have in common? They all open their meeting with an invocation. So whose name is missing from that list? That would be Peachtree City. We do a moment of silence, not a minute of silence, just a moment of silence that barely lasts 15 seconds. And even if I wanted to say a true prayer, that time frame would be a challenge. The invocation is a tradition in the Georgia House of Representatives where a member of the House opens the session with a prayer or a moment of reflection. It's their choice. And according to the Georgia House of Representatives website, the invocation is typically given by a member of the House or a guest speaker. The invocation is usually a brief prayer or a moment of reflection, and sometimes it's both. And that sets the tone for the day's proceedings. The invocation is not a formal part of the legislative process, but it is a tradition that helps establish a sense of reverence and respect in the chamber. It's given at the beginning of each day's session. In the Georgia House of Representatives, the invocation is an opportunity for members to reflect on the importance of their work and the values that guide their decisions. It's also a chance for members to come together and seek guidance and wisdom as they work to serve the people of Georgia and to offer a statement about any recent event or issue that needs reflection. So I do have 3 examples of invocations that have been given in the Georgia House of Representatives, but I'll only read one, unless of course you'd like to hear all 3.
Ms. Brown, a point of order. Do you have a proposal or a suggestion that you want us to
Yes, I do, and I will
decide?
get to that.
Carry forward, please.
I didn't realize that there's like a time limit involved, Madam Mayor.
Please finish up.
So then let me stop interrupting me, thank you. And the prayer that was said by John Burns, Speaker of the House in Georgia, is, Almighty God, we come before you today with humble hearts, seeking your guidance and wisdom as we begin this new day. May our words and actions be guided by your principles of justice, compassion, and truth. May we work together to build a better future for the people of Georgia, and may we always remember that our power comes from you alone. And that was said by Representative John Burns, the Speaker of the House. Having attended or viewed videos of many of the other civic boards and commissions in the local area I outlined in the beginning, I can say that the invocation at each of those meetings is given by a member of the council or board on the dais. It is relatively short, acknowledges that anyone who so chooses to observe a moment of silence instead may do so. It is not overtly religious, but simply reverent in acknowledging God's importance in their lives, in their beliefs, and in their actions.
Madam Mayor, can I make a point of order?
Mr. DiStadio, make your point.
We've talked about this before.
Yes, quite some time ago, Frank.
No, before you were here.
Yes, more than 180 days ago.
Tell me your point, Mr. DiStadio.
I'd like to call either, is this gonna be a vote for something? Because I'd like to have it brought to a vote.
Let's bring it to a vote. Let's find out what that would be. Point of order. Point of order. What is it that you would like us to do, Ms. Brown?
I would like you to stop interrupting me so I can finish what I'm trying to read here.
If Mr. DiStadio, as a board member, has a right to call point of order, if he
Okay,
feels
point
this
of order
is
is, I'm about getting ready to make a motion.
Make it, please.
I would like to make a motion that we put the subject of having an invocation on the next council agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I apologize, however, this is a council and staff topic. You can gain consensus, but not vote on the actual item.
Thank you. Thanks very much for
We're going
that.
to talk about that in a minute, but yeah, I understand.
Do we have council consensus? I'll go first. This is not something you and I have even talked about, Ms.
We
Brown?
don't have to talk about it before we bring a council topic up
That's
during
true.
council staff topics.
That's true. I think it would be respectful if I knew ahead of time that a topic
It does
was
not
coming.
have to be discussed with you,
Ms.
Madam
Brown,
Mayor.
you are out of order, and I have the floor. It would have been respectful for me to have been notified in some capacity before tonight's meeting, and so therefore, I am not prepared at all to advance a conversation about this. I would have appreciated the courtesy of a conversation. I have reached out to you several times to say, please, let's sit down together, and we haven't been able to make that work. So I have the floor. I am not in any way prepared to move this conversation forward. Mr. DeStadio?
My only comment is that we've done this before. I hope everybody can hear me. My voice is low.
You're fine.
But my concern is that I've seen this done at the county commissioners meeting. And it started out with a prayer, which was fine. I'm Catholic, I don't have a problem praying. But it quickly migrated from a Catholic prayer to a Jewish prayer and then I think we finally stopped it when it became a Hebrew, I mean, not a Hebrew prayer, but somebody from the,
Muslim.
thank you, Muslim. So it was finally decided we would just go to a plain Catholic prayer, and everybody got upset about that. So they did away with it, and they went to a moment of silence, which is what we started with when we started talking about this. You can pray yourself, which is what I do, or you can have a moment of silence. So I would recommend that we don't take it forward.
Ms. Johnson?
I know emotions are riding high right now. But I would like to say, I think both of these ideas are seeking for good. You know, an invocation, you're seeking for something good. A moment of silence is seeking for something good. I don't think we have a problem right now with a moment of silence. It is disturbing to me that something that should, if instituted, should bring peace into a meeting. I don't think that it would have that effect here, which is sad. You know, I love prayer. I really do. I every time we have a moment of silence, I say my prayer. I have reached out to friends and neighbors on this issue who are members of our community who are of different religions, and they have said that a moment of silence is something that they would feel more comfortable with. I feel like as a council, we are responsible for creating an atmosphere of peace and of mutual respect. I feel like that is best served to the people I know and to the citizens I care about in the form of something that is currently working, and that would be a moment of silence.
Thank you. Mr. Holland?
I also am a Catholic, like Mr. DeStadio, and I do my praying all day long, every day. I say prayers for all of the people on this dais and for the staff at our evening meals. So I'm not afraid of prayer. And it doesn't have to be, one done for the Jewish faith, and one done for a Catholic, and one done for an Episcopalian, and one done, no. An invocation is an invocation to have God come down and guide us in our decisions during this council meeting. And for that reason, that I would look to have us re-look at invocations as not prayer, but invoking the Almighty to come and help us to make sure we make the right decisions for our citizens. And for that matter, I would love to see it come forward. We can have a really in-depth discussion of what we should do. Not just, oh, it's going to be this or that or the other. I don't think that that's the right way, Madam Mayor. I think we should have an in-depth discussion on the topic. Maybe it could be done in the future, but certainly I would like to see an in-depth discussion on this topic.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the record will show we do not have consensus of council to move forward on the invocation. Ms. Brown, do you have any other council staff topics?
No, not tonight.
I have none.
Mr. Gustadio, Mr. Holland?
No, I'm all set.
I have just a couple. First of all, our next meeting is May 16th, and it will be at 9:30 in the morning. And again, in June, our second meeting of the month will be June 20th at 9:30 in the morning. I'm wearing my Special Pops t-shirt tonight. I don't usually show up in a t-shirt, but this is to honor and highlight a wonderful Peachtree City program. The Fayette County middle schools, high schools, and adults up to age 21 come to our Peachtree City Tennis Center once a week for a 7-week season in the spring and again in the fall to play tennis. These are developmentally disabled adults, and it is an absolutely beautiful program. Last Friday, they had their graduation. There were 160 developmentally disabled students and adults who were there to play tennis and have a good time on a beautiful day. The Peachtree City Tennis Center always turns out to accommodate them. The volunteers are incredible. Kimber Carden, Lyda Miller, Ray Gandhi, and 57 other volunteers make the whole program possible. The people are bussed in, and they have a wonderful time. So I'm in my casual duds tonight just to honor Special Pops. Peachtree City 101 had their graduation last night. How many students were in the program this time? 22 students spent 8 weeks learning about Peachtree City, and each and every one of them was absolutely enthralled. So they learned about all the various departments, budget, and everything else that goes on in Peachtree City. They were thrilled with the program, and I'm happy to hear we're going to probably do it again next year. And I think it's the way forward for a lot of our citizens. They all learned that our government is not just those people, but our government is these people, and we're neighbors, and we're all working hard and doing the best we can to put a positive face of Peachtree City forward and do our jobs well. I was really gratified, and I want to thank staff for all the work they put into PTC 101. On Tuesday, May 7th, we'll have a workshop at 6:30 p.m., and the topic is?
Our fee schedule.
Our fee schedule. Mm-hmm. And on Monday afternoon, May 13th at 4:30 p.m., we will have a dedication for the new Ralph N. Jones Memorial Boat Ramp. Mm-hmm. So we're looking forward to that. And finally, I have mail that I got today. Dear Mayor Lerner, just a quick note to brag about your building and zoning department. Didn't see that coming. In remodeling our home, we've had numerous conversations with these folks, and every one of them has been above and beyond. They're all courteous, quick to respond, knowledgeable, and professional. Customer service is a lost art these days, and this department represents Peachtree City well. Beverly, Robin, and the whole crew are top-notch. People are quick to complain, so I wanted to be sure to praise for a job well done. Well done. Thank you very much. And that is all I have.
I have a
Just
couple
Happy
items.
belated birthday, Robin.
Yes.
Happy birthday.
I had a couple of those things, but a couple more. Coming up to starting tomorrow and Saturday, we have our spring cleanup at the Rockaway compost site area, 101 Mead Drive, if you need the address. It's from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. both days, so if you got any junk at your house, there's a couple items they won't take, like chemicals and batteries, tires, stuff like that.
They won't take paint.
No paint, yeah, no paint either. But I plan on taking advantage of it. So if you got stuff to clean out in your house, head down there and they'll take anything and throw it in the dumpsters. Coming up on May 8th at the Tennis Center, we have our next Slice of the City where staff comes out and updates each village. So this is our Wilkesmore Village Slice of the City. And so if you live in Wilkesmore Village, we're going to talk about things that are going on in your village specifically, things that the city staff's working on. We'll have all of our directors and chiefs there, so you get to meet the police chief, the fire chief, their city engineer, me, Robin, our finance, our public works guys. So come out to that and learn more about what's going on in your village. And then last thing I have is our communications staff received a nomination for a Southeast Emmy from one of the videos they did last year honoring our veterans for Veterans Day, that 2 of our council members are featured in, and one of our previous council members, and then some of our staff as well that served in our armed forces. So a big achievement for our communications staff to be nominated for an Emmy for the first time. Haven't won it yet, but have at least been nominated, so we're proud of that. And that's all I have.
All right, do we have?
Mayor, I have one council staff topic.
Yes?
Jasmine made a comment a few minutes ago about a proposed matter to go on the agenda about how we typically don't vote when it comes to council staff topics. The basis for that has always been that both under Georgia law and our city ordinance, some items are supposed to be on the agenda before council takes action. And if you just up and vote on something that comes up during council staff topics, the public hasn't received notice, and that's always been a concern. Obviously, the recent change to how council members can put matters on agendas, we've had some growing pains. It's typical whenever you have a new process or procedure, so I wasn't surprised that we had those growing pains. But I don't think it's inappropriate when we get to that scenario that a motion and second and a vote is made as to whether to put something on the agenda.
You don't think that's inappropriate?
I don't think that's, I think it'd be appropriate to do it, and here's why. It's not final action. All you're doing is voting to put it on a future agenda, at which time final action will be taken. So therefore, the public will have notice in advance before action is taken. They can come, participate in it as deemed necessary. I know from staff's perspective, I mean, for example, items were listed tonight under discussion. To me, if council says we're gonna put something on an agenda, it's a new agenda item. And that's part of the emails and some of the discussions that Ms. Brown and I had during the course of this week about once something gets, there's a decision to put something on the agenda, no matter who originated that idea, it becomes a council agenda topic. And that's where I have a problem with one person saying, okay, well, we want to continue it. No, it's now a council agenda topic. I think that's something council should weigh in on as opposed to one person. You can always make a procedure for the originator. If you want to go back and look at the ordinance again, whoever originates it, if they want to just pull it all together or as, you know, that it be continued, then we can add that to that ordinance. But the way it's written right now, I think that if there's consensus, we're going to put it on an agenda, then that's the way it goes. All that to say, I do think it's going to be easier for staff if we know exactly what's going to be on the agenda the next time, as opposed to trying to decipher it from reading minutes and everybody's comments. If we have a concrete motion, it's just going to be a lot more efficient on staff's end and for your end and for the public's end in terms of what's going to be on the agenda.
All right.
Now, we do have an executive session. It's been a while since we've had one of those, but we have the trifecta tonight. We need to discuss personnel, real estate, and pending or threatened litigation.
Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to go to executive session. For,
Second, all three?
I was gonna say it, he jumped in.
Go ahead.
For pending litigation, personnel,
And real estate.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries, and we are in executive session.